What if the family you trusted with your heart and your millions stabbed you in the back with a venom so cruel it left you gasping? Picture this: a quiet Father's Day morning in a Silicon Valley mansion, shattered by a package that wasn't a gift but a chilling betrayal. $60 million, a lifetime of love, and the safety of those you cherish, most ripped away by someone you called your own. Who could turn love into a weapon this vicious? Why would they destroy the empire you built for them? Stay with RevengeX, hit that subscribe button, and brace for a story of greed, lies, and a fight for redemption that'll leave you speechless. Can you guess who's behind this treachery? Welcome to RevengeX, where electrifying stories of betrayal and triumph set your soul ablaze. We're thrilled to have you join our community of viewers who celebrate unyielding resilience and fierce courage. Hit that subscribe button to never miss a heart-pounding tale, and it'd be incredible if you smashed the like button, shared this video, or dropped a comment with the time and city or country you're watching from. Your likes, shares, and heartfelt comments are the greatest spiritual gift, the fuel that keeps this channel burning bright. Now, buckle up for a story that'll hit you right in the feels. Let's dive in. My name is Charles Bennett, a 68-year-old retired tech mogul who built a fortune from nothing, brick by digital brick, over 45 years in Silicon Valley. I started with a small software startup in the 80s, coding in a cramped garage in Palo Alto, California, until it grew into a multi-billion-dollar empire. I've always believed in family above all. My wife, Margaret, my son, Nathan, and his wife, Lauren, who I welcomed like a daughter. My wealth, now in the hundreds of millions, was meant to secure their future, a legacy of love, forged through decades of missed birthdays and sleepless nights. But on Father's Day, that legacy became a weapon, and the sting of betrayal cut deeper than I could have imagined. The day began with a delivery that shattered my world, a package that wasn't a gift but a venomous trap, orchestrated by the one person I never suspected, Lauren, my daughter-in-law. It was a crisp Sunday morning in our sprawling estate in Atherton, California, the kind of neighborhood where Teslas hum quietly and manicured lawns whisper wealth. Margaret was in the kitchen, her laughter mingling with the scent of fresh coffee and rosemary from her herb garden. I sat on our leather sectional, skimming the Wall Street Journal, savoring the rare peace of a holiday morning. At 68, my joints ached from years of stress, but my heart was full, expecting a call from Nathan, or maybe a handmade card from my grandkids, Ellie and Max. Then the doorbell chimed, sharp and insistent, slicing through the calm like a blade. A UPS truck idled in our driveway, an odd sight for a Sunday. The driver, a young man with a hurried smile, handed me a shoebox-sized package. Charles Bennett, Happy Father's Day. Someone paid top dollar for express delivery. I signed, noting the label. No return address, just my name in block letters. The box was light, too light for its size, maybe 2 pounds. I carried it inside, setting it on the mahogany coffee table where we'd hosted countless family dinners. Margaret emerged, wiping her hands on a linen towel, her brow furrowing. "Who's it from, Charles?" she asked, her voice tinged with the caution she'd honed from years of dodging corporate espionage. "No idea," I said, but a flicker of unease stirred in my chest. Lauren had been distant lately, her smiles tight, her requests for loans growing bolder. $5 million last month for a business venture that never materialized. I'd given her and Nathan $10 million over 3 years, covering their mansion's mortgage, private school tuition for the kids, and Lauren's endless shopping sprees at Neiman Marcus. But last week, I'd drawn a line, refusing her latest demand for $3 million to fund a shady crypto scheme. Her eyes had flashed with something dark anger, maybe, or something colder. I shook off the thought. She was family, after all. Margaret leaned closer, her fingers brushing the box. Then she froze. "Charles, don't touch it." Her voice was a whisper, sharp with fear. "Look at the holes." Tiny, deliberate punctures dotted the cardboard, barely visible in the morning light. Breathing holes. My stomach lurched, a primal dread clawing at me. "Something's alive in there," she said, stepping back, her eyes wide. A soft rustle came from the box, then a hiss, low, menacing, unmistakable. My heart pounded, the room tilting. A snake? In our home? The betrayal hit like a sledgehammer, but I didn't yet know who wielded it. I called my old friend Tom Harper, a retired FBI agent who'd been my rock through every crisis. "Tom, we've got a problem," I said, my voice shaking. A package with breathing holes, hissing like a damn viper. Tom's voice was steady but urgent. "Don't touch it, Charles. I'm coming over, and I'm calling Emily Carter. She's a cop I trust." Minutes later, a louder rustle erupted from the box, followed by a chilling scrape, like scales against cardboard. Margaret grabbed my arm, her nails digging in. "Who would do this?" she whispered. My mind raced to Lauren, but I pushed it away, too monstrous to believe. Then my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Happy Father's Day, Charles. You should have paid up." My blood ran cold. The message was Lauren-style taunting, calculated. I showed Margaret, whose face crumpled. "She wouldn't," she said, but doubt cracked her voice. Another sound from the box, a sharp thump, like something heavy shifting. I stumbled back, my mind screaming, "She did." Lauren, the woman I'd treated as my own, who dined at our table, hugged me at Christmas, had sent a live snake to our home. But why? Was it revenge for the $3 million I refused? Or something darker? Before I could process, the doorbell rang again. It was Dylan, Lauren's brother, a sleazy con artist who'd borrowed $500,000 from me last year, claiming it was for a charity. His smirk was venomous. "Heard you got a gift, old man," he sneered, leaning against the doorframe. "Lauren says you're too stingy to share the wealth." My fists clenched. "Get off my property," I growled, but his laugh was cruel. "You'll regret crossing us, Bennett. Family's supposed to help family." He sauntered off, leaving a chill worse than the snake's hiss. Tom arrived with Officer Emily Carter, a no-nonsense cop with sharp eyes. "Mr. Bennett, describe the sounds," Emily said, her radio crackling. Hissing, rustling, now thumping. I said, my voice hollow, like something alive and angry. Emily nodded, her face grim. "We're calling animal control. Stay back." As we waited, my mind churned. 45 years of sacrifice, missed anniversaries, sleepless nights coding, all to build a fortune for my family. And now, Lauren, who I'd trusted, who I'd given millions, had turned that love into a weapon. The pain was raw, a knife twisting in my gut. How had I been so blind? Had her smiles always been a lie, her hugs a performance to siphon my wealth? Another text buzzed. "You'll pay one way or another." No name, but I knew. Lauren's betrayal wasn't just the snake, it was the millions she'd drained, the lies she'd spun, the family she'd fractured. I thought of Ellie and Max, pawns in her game, and my heart broke. I'd given everything for them, only to be stabbed in the back by the woman my son loved. As sirens wailed in the distance, signaling animal control's arrival, I stood frozen, torn between rage and grief. The box hissed again, a reminder that this wasn't just a prank, it was war. The morning's chill lingered in my bones as I stood in our Atherton living room, the snake's hiss still echoing in my mind like a cruel taunt. The coffee table, once a stage for family game nights, now felt like a crime scene, the box's breathing holes staring back at me like accusing eyes. Margaret's hand trembled on my arm, her face pale with a fear I hadn't seen since our early days dodging corporate sharks. The betrayal wasn't just the snake, it was the calculated cruelty of Lauren, my daughter-in-law, who'd turned my generosity into a weapon. I'd poured millions into her and Nathan's life, believing it was love, only to find myself targeted by a venomous plot on Father's Day. The weight of it crushed me, but the storm was far from over. My phone buzzed again, another text from an unknown number. "You think you're untouchable, old man? Check your accounts." My heart sank. I rushed to my home office, a sanctuary lined with mahogany bookshelves and framed photos of Ellie and Max at Disneyland, their smiles now a painful reminder of what I'd lost. Logging into our banking portal, I froze. My secondary investment account, $20 million, painstakingly built for the grandkids' future, was drained to zero. The transactions screamed Lauren's handiwork. Transfers to offshore accounts, labeled as consulting fees to a shell company called Viper Ventures. The name hit like a slap. She wasn't just terrorizing us with a snake. She'd gutted our legacy, siphoning millions while we slept. I called Tom Harper, my voice cracking. "Tom, she's taken everything. 20 million gone." Tom, ever the loyal friend, swore under his breath. "I'm on my way, Charles. Don't do anything rash. We'll nail her." His FBI instincts kicked in, but his words couldn't soothe the raw wound in my chest. I'd trusted Lauren, opened my home, my heart, my fortune to her. Every check I'd written, $5 million for their beach house, $2 million for Nathan's startup, $3 million for Lauren's charity galas, was a brick in the bridge I thought connected us. Now, that bridge was ash, and the betrayal burned deeper than the money lost. Margaret appeared in the doorway, her eyes red. "Charles, Nathan just called. He's coming over with Lauren. They're furious about the snake accusation." My stomach twisted. Nathan, my only son, who'd once looked at me like I hung the moon, was now Lauren's pawn. The doorbell rang, sharp and relentless, like a boxer's jab. I opened it to find Nathan, his jaw tight, and Lauren, her designer sunglasses glinting with malice. Behind them stood Dylan, her sleazy brother, his leather jacket reeking of cigarette smoke, and a new face, Vince, a slick lawyer type in a tailored suit, smirking like he'd already won. Well, well, old man, Lauren sneered, her voice dripping with street venom. You really think you can pin this snake crap on me? You're dumber than I thought. Her words cut, each syllable a middle finger to the years I'd treated her like family. Nathan stepped forward, his face torn between anger and shame. Dad, this is low. Accusing Lauren without proof? You're tearing us apart. His betrayal stung worse than hers, my own son, siding with the woman who'd robbed us blind. I gripped the doorframe, my knuckles white. Nathan, check the accounts. 20 million gone. Viper Ventures sound familiar? Lauren's smirk faltered for a split second, but Dylan jumped in, his voice pure gutter. You're a paranoid fossil, Bennett. Keep your millions, you greedy bastard. We don't need your handouts. His lie was laughable, but the audacity ignited a fury in me. They'd taken everything, my trust, my money, my son, and now stood on my porch, spitting in my face. Vince, the lawyer, spoke up, his tone oily and neutral. Mr. Bennett, let's calm down. I'm here to mediate. Perhaps we can discuss this rationally. His words were a farce, a thinly veiled attempt to cover Lauren's tracks. I saw it in his eyes. He was in on it, another cog in her scheme. Mediate? I snapped. You think I'll negotiate with thieves who send snakes to my home? Margaret gasped behind me, her hand flying to her mouth. Charles, don't their family. Family. The word was a dagger. I'd given Lauren everything: private jets for her vacations, a yacht for her birthdays, a safety net for Nathan's failures. And now, she'd orchestrated a heist of 20 million and a psychological attack with a live reptile. My mind churned, torn between rage and heartbreak. I remembered Lauren's first Thanksgiving with us, how she'd hugged me, tears in her eyes, promising to honor our family. Was it all a lie? Had every smile been a calculated step toward this moment? The pain was visceral, like a heart attack I couldn't shake. Before I could respond, another shock hit. A black SUV screeched into the driveway, and two men in dark suits stepped out, flashing badges. Charles Bennett? We're with the SEC. We need to talk about unauthorized transfers from your accounts. My knees buckled. Lauren had escalated her game, framing me for her theft. She leaned in, her voice a venomous whisper. Should have paid up, Pops. Now you're screwed. Nathan looked away, guilt etching his face while Dylan laughed, a hyena's cackle that echoed down the street. Tom arrived, his pickup truck skidding to a halt. Charles, what the hell's going on? He demanded, glaring at Lauren. You okay? His loyalty anchored me, a lifeline in the chaos. Officer Emily Carter joined us, her radio crackling. Mr. Bennett, Animal Control confirmed the snake's non-venomous, but we're investigating the sender. Any suspects? Her neutrality was a stark contrast to Lauren's venom, but I saw Nathan flinch. He knew. Deep down, he knew. Lauren, I said, my voice cold as steel. You sent the snake. You stole 20 million, and now you're framing me? Her laugh was cruel, a street hustler's bravado. Prove it, you washed-up has-been. You think your billions make you king? You're nothing now. The words were a gut punch, but worse was Nathan's silence. My son, my pride, stood complicit in her betrayal. The pain was unbearable. 45 years of sacrifice, building an empire for him, only to watch him let Lauren tear it down. I turned to Emily. Check Viper Ventures, the transfers, the snake, it's all her. Emily nodded, jotting notes, while Tom clapped a hand on my shoulder. We'll fix this, Charles. She won't get away with it. But as Lauren smirked, Dylan sneered, and Vince scribbled on his notepad, I felt the weight of their betrayal. My family, my fortune, my trust, all shattered in a single morning. The SEC agents loomed, Lauren's taunts rang in my ears, and Nathan's silence screamed louder than any words. I was a father betrayed, a king dethroned, and the fight was only beginning. The air in our Atherton mansion felt thick with betrayal, the kind that clings to your skin like humidity before a storm. The SEC agents' badges glinted under the chandelier, their questions about unauthorized transfers ringing in my ears as Lauren's smirk burned into my soul. Nathan's silence was a knife, twisting deeper with every second he refused to meet my eyes. $20 million, my grandkids' future, stolen by the woman I'd trusted like a daughter. The snake, the drained accounts, the SEC at my door. Lauren's war against me had escalated beyond anything I'd imagined. As Tom stood by my side, a rock of loyalty, and Officer Emily Carter scribbled notes, I felt the ground shifting beneath me. This wasn't just a family fight, it was a calculated ambush, and I was bleeding out. I retreated to the kitchen, the polished marble island, a stark contrast to the chaos in my heart. Margaret followed, her hands wringing a dish towel like it could wring out the pain. "Charles, what's happening to us?" she whispered, her voice cracking. I wanted to answer, to reassure her, but my mind was a battlefield. Every memory of Lauren, her laughter at our 4th of July barbecues, her tears when I paid off their yacht loan was now tainted. Had she planned this from the start? Had every hug been a step toward this heist? The thought was a gut punch, my love for her weaponized into a $20 million betrayal. My phone buzzed again, another anonymous text. "You're done, Bennett. Your empire's crumbling." My hands shook as I showed it to Tom. "It's her," I said, my voice raw. "She's not stopping." Tom's jaw tightened. "We need to trace this, Charles. I've got contacts who can dig into Viper Ventures." Before I could respond, a deafening crash echoed from the front yard. We rushed to the window to see Dylan, Lauren's low-life brother, standing by my vintage Mustang, my pride and joy from the startup days, its windshield shattered, a crowbar in his hand. "You like playing tough, you rich prick?" he bellowed, his voice pure East Bay street venom. "How's this for a message?" Margaret gasped, clutching my arm, but the shock was just the beginning. A second figure emerged from the shadows, Ricky, Lauren's ex-con cousin, his tattooed arms flexing as he tossed a Molotov cocktail onto our manicured lawn. Flames erupted, licking at the rose bushes Margaret had tended for decades. "Burn it all down, old man," Ricky shouted, his laugh a hyena's cackle. The audacity of their attack vandalism on top of theft and terror lit a fire in me, but beneath it was a crushing grief. These weren't strangers, they were family, or so I'd believed. Emily Carter sprang into action, radioing for backup. "Stay inside," she ordered, sprinting toward the chaos. Tom grabbed his phone, calling his old FBI buddy, Mike Torres, a straight shooter who'd helped us navigate a patent war years ago. "Mike, we've got a situation," Tom said, his voice steady but urgent. "Vandalism, theft, threats. Charles needs you." Mike's response was immediate. "I'm there in 20. His loyalty was a lifeline, but it couldn't drown out the screams in my head. 45 years of grinding coding until dawn, missing Nathan's Little League games, building an empire for my family only to have Lauren torch it all. The pain was a physical ache, my chest tight with the weight of her betrayal. Nathan, still in the living room, finally spoke, his voice low. "Dad, I didn't know about the accounts. I swear." His eyes pleaded, but doubt gnawed at me. Had he been blind or complicit? Lauren's influence had turned my son into a stranger, and the realization was a fresh wound. "You didn't know?" I snapped, my voice breaking. "She's been bleeding us dry for years, Nathan. 10 million for your house, 3 million for her galas, and you didn't notice her stealing 20 million? His silence was deafening, his guilt a mirror to my own failures as a father. I'd given too much, loved too blindly, and now my son was caught in her web. Another twist hit like a freight train. Emily returned, her face grim. "Mr. Bennett, we found security footage from your gate camera. It shows Lauren dropping off the package this morning." My knees buckled. Undeniable proof she'd stood on my porch, smiling for the camera, knowing a snake was inside. But there was more. "There's a second clip," Emily said. "It shows her meeting Vince at a diner last night, handing him a flash drive. We think it's got forged documents tying you to Viper Ventures." The room spun. Lauren wasn't just stealing. She was framing me for fraud, painting me as the criminal to the SEC. Her betrayal wasn't a single act, it was a multi-layered assault, each layer more vicious than the last. Dylan's voice cut through the chaos, shouting from the yard. "You're finished, Bennett. Your money can't save you now." The flames on the lawn roared higher, a neighbor's sprinkler hissing in futile protest. Ricky tossed another Molotov, this one shattering against our mailbox, sending sparks into the dusk. Their brazenness was staggering, destroying my home, my legacy, my peace, all while Lauren orchestrated from the shadows. I turned to Margaret, her face a mask of grief. "She was family," she whispered. "How could she hate us this much?" The question echoed my own torment. I'd given Lauren everything, love, trust, millions, only to be repaid with fire and deceit. My mind raced, torn between fury and despair. I saw Ellie and Max's faces, their innocence caught in Lauren's war. I'd built my fortune for them, dreaming of their college funds, their futures. But Lauren had stolen that too. The betrayal was a living thing, clawing at my heart. Had I failed her somehow? Had my wealth made her greedy? Or had she always been a predator, waiting for the right moment to strike? The self-doubt was paralyzing. But Tom's voice snapped me back. Charles, we fight this. Mike's bringing forensic accountants. We'll trace every penny. Emily's radio crackled with an update. Fire department's en route. Suspects fleeing in a black SUV. But the damage was done. My Mustang was a wreck, the lawn a smoldering ruin, and my trust in family shattered. Nathan sank onto the couch, head in his hands. I should have stopped her, he muttered. His admission was a flicker of hope, but too little, too late. Lauren's venom had poisoned us all, and the third shock landed like a bomb. My phone pinged with an email from an unknown sender, containing a forged letter in my name, authorizing the $20 million transfer to Viper Ventures. Lauren had covered every angle, framing me to the world while she danced away with my fortune. As sirens wailed in the distance, I stood frozen, the weight of betrayal crushing me. Lauren's taunts, Dylan's vandalism, Nathan's complicity. It was a tsunami of deceit, each wave more devastating than the last. But beneath the rage, a resolve hardened. I'd built an empire once. I could fight to reclaim it. Tom's hand on my shoulder, Margaret's quiet strength, and Mike's incoming help were anchors in the storm. Lauren thought she'd broken me, but this was far from over. I'd face her in court, in the streets, wherever she hid. The king wasn't dethroned yet. The sirens faded into the Atherton dusk, leaving behind the acrid stench of charred roses and the wreckage of my vintage Mustang, a relic of my scrappy startup days, now reduced to twisted metal. The SEC agents had left with promises of further investigation, but their words felt hollow against the weight of Lauren's betrayal. $20 million stolen, my name smeared with forged documents, my lawn torched by her thug brother Dylan and his ex-con cousin Ricky. This wasn't just a family feud. It was a declaration of war. Nathan's muttered apology lingered in the air, too weak to bridge the chasm between us. As Margaret clutched my hand, her eyes searching mine for answers I didn't have, I felt the ground beneath my empire crumbling. But the worst was yet to come. I retreated to my study, the oak-paneled walls once a haven for late-night coding sessions now closing in like a trap. My desk held a photo of Ellie and Max at their school play, their gap-toothed grins a reminder of why I'd built this fortune. Lauren had taken more than money. She'd stolen their future, my legacy, and the trust I'd poured into her like a fool. My chest ached with a grief so deep it felt like drowning. Had I enabled this? Had my millions, handed over so freely, $10 million for their mansion, $5 million for Nathan's failed ventures, turned her into this monster? Or had she always been a viper, coiled and waiting? The self-doubt was a poison, seeping into every memory of her laughter, her promises, her lies. My phone lit up with a new message. This one from Nathan. Dad, meet us at the old pier in Half Moon Bay. We need to talk. Alone. My heart stuttered. The pier was a family spot, where we'd fished with Nathan as a kid, where I'd taught Ellie to skip rocks. Why there? Why now? Against my better judgment, I grabbed my keys, ignoring Margaret's worried gaze. Charles, don't go, she pleaded, her voice trembling. It's a trap. But I had to know, could Nathan be salvaged, or was he fully Lauren's puppet? Tom, ever loyal, insisted on coming. I'm not letting you face those snakes alone, he said, his FBI instincts on high alert. The drive to Half Moon Bay was a blur, the Pacific's waves crashing under a moonless sky. The pier loomed, its weathered planks creaking under my steps. Nathan stood at the far end, Lauren beside him, her silhouette sharp against the ocean's glint. Dylan and Ricky flanked them, their grins feral, while Vince, the slick lawyer, lurked nearby, clutching a briefcase like a shield. A new figure emerged from the shadows, Gina, Lauren's childhood friend, a real estate agent who'd brokered their beach house deal. Her presence threw me. She'd always been neutral, professional. Was she another traitor? Well, look at the big shot, Lauren sneered, her voice dripping with street venom. Thought you'd hide behind your billions, you stingy old bastard? Her words were a blade, cutting through the memories of her tearful gratitude when I'd funded her dreams. Nathan shifted, his eyes darting to the ground. Dad, just hear her out, he mumbled, but his voice lacked conviction. Dylan stepped closer, cracking his knuckles. You're out of moves, Bennett. Hand over the rest of your cash, or we make this real ugly. Ricky chuckled, twirling a switchblade that caught the pier's dim lights. The first shock hit like a tidal wave. Gina spoke, her voice cold. Charles, I've got buyers for your Atherton estate. Lauren says you're selling to settle her debts. My blood ran cold. They weren't just after my money, they wanted my home. The sanctuary where Margaret and I had raised Nathan, where Ellie and Max had played hide and seek. You're insane, I spat, my voice shaking with rage. You think I'll let you take my family's home? Lauren laughed, a cruel guttural sound. You're done, Pops. We've got your signatures on the sale, papers forged, sure, but good enough to bury you. The second twist landed like a sucker punch. Vince opened his briefcase, revealing a stack of documents, fake contracts, notarized with my name, transferring my estate to an offshore trust linked to Viper Ventures. Sign here to make it official, he said, his tone oily, or we leak these to the press. Tech mogul Charles Bennett laundering millions? The headlines will ruin you. My mind reeled. Lauren hadn't just stolen 20 million. She was dismantling my entire legacy, piece by piece, with a lawyer's precision and a street thug's ruthlessness. I turned to Nathan, desperation clawing at me. You're okay with this? Letting her destroy everything I built for you? His silence was a fresh betrayal, his eyes wet but unyielding. She says it's for Ellie and Max, he whispered. The lie was a knife to my heart. I'd given everything for those kids' college funds, trust accounts, a future, and Lauren had twisted it into a weapon. My mind flashed to their laughter, their tiny hands in mine, and the pain of losing them to her greed was a physical blow. Had I failed Nathan too, raising a son too weak to see through her? The third shock erupted like gunfire. Dylan lunged, shoving me against the pier's railing, the ocean roaring below. Sign the damn papers, you washed-up has-been, he snarled, his breath hot with whiskey. Ricky raised his blade, inches from my throat, while Lauren watched, her smirk pure malice. You thought you were king, Bennett? You're nothing now. Tom sprang forward, his fist connecting with Dylan's jaw, sending him sprawling. Back off, Tom roared, his FBI training kicking in. Gina screamed, caught between sides, while Vince backed away, clutching his briefcase like a coward. Emily Carter's cruiser screeched onto the pier, lights flashing. Drop the knife, she shouted, her gun drawn. Ricky froze, his bravado crumbling, but Lauren's laugh cut through the chaos. You can't touch me, cop. I've got dirt on everyone, including you. My stomach dropped. Was Emily compromised? Her steady gaze reassured me she was clean, a beacon of integrity in this cesspool. You're under arrest for assault and extortion, she said, cuffing Dylan as Ricky bolted into the night. As Emily hauled Dylan away, I faced Lauren, my voice cold. You've taken everything, my money, my son, my home, but you won't break me. Her smirk faltered, but she spat back. This ain't over, old man. You'll beg me to stop. Nathan turned away, his shoulders slumped, a pawn in her game. Tom steadied me, his voice firm. We'll fight this, Charles. Mike's tracing the forgeries. She's done. But the pain was relentless, a tidal wave of grief and rage. I'd built an empire for my family, only to watch Lauren burn it down, with Nathan's complicity as the final betrayal. The pier creaked under my feet, the ocean whispering of battles yet to come. The Half Moon Bay pier faded into the rearview mirror as Tom drove us back to Atherton, the Pacific's roar replaced by a deafening silence in my chest. Lauren's venomous laughter, Dylan's cuffed wrists, and Nathan's averted eyes haunted me, each a fresh wound in the tapestry of betrayal that had unraveled my family. The forged contracts, the torched lawn, the stolen $20 million, they were just the surface of Lauren's war. I gripped the car door, my knuckles white, as the weight of her cruelty pressed down. Margaret waited at home, her strength my only anchor, but the pain of losing Nathan to Lauren's manipulation was a raw, bleeding gash. I'd built an empire for my son, my grandkids, only to watch it burn at the hands of a woman I'd loved like a daughter. Back in our mansion, the living room felt like a mausoleum, the charred scent of the lawn seeping through the windows. Margaret sat on the couch, her hands folded tightly, her eyes red from silent tears. Did Nathan say anything? She asked, her voice fragile. I shook my head, the memory of his silence, a dagger. He's hers now, I said, my voice cracking. The grief was suffocating decades of sacrifices, from coding marathons to missed family dinners. All for Nathan, now a puppet in Lauren's scheme. Had I been too generous? Too blind? The self-doubt was a relentless tide, pulling me under. Every check I'd written, $10 million for their mansion, $5 million for their yacht, had fed her greed, and I'd been too trusting to see it. My phone buzzed, shattering the quiet. A video message from an unknown number loaded, and my blood froze. It was Lauren, lounging in a penthouse suite, a champagne flute in hand, with Ellie and Max playing in the background. Hey, old man, she sneered, her voice pure Oakland street venom. Bet you're crying over your billions. Too bad you can't buy your grandkids back. She panned the camera to Ellie, who waved innocently, unaware of the game. Keep playing tough, you washed-up loser. You'll never see them again. The video cut off, leaving me gasping, The image of my grandkids in her clutches, a knife to my heart. She wasn't just stealing money, she was weaponizing my love for Ellie and Max, twisting it into a ransom demand. The first shock hit like a lightning bolt. A knock at the door revealed Carla, our longtime housekeeper, her face ashen. "Mr. Bennett, I found this in the garage," she said, holding a USB drive labeled Viper Secrets. Carla, loyal as family, had cleaned our home for 20 years, her integrity a rare constant in this storm. "I didn't know who to trust," she whispered, handing it over. I plugged it into my laptop, and my stomach dropped. It contained emails between Lauren and a hacker named Jax, detailing a plan to hack my corporate servers, siphoning another 30 million from my company's reserves. The betrayal deepened. She wasn't just targeting my personal wealth. She was gutting my life's work, the company I'd built from a garage to a Silicon Valley titan. Before I could process, the second twist landed. My phone rang, and it was Sarah, Nathan's old college friend, a CPA who'd audited our books years ago. Her voice was urgent. "Charles, I just got a tip from a whistleblower. Lauren's been funneling your money through a fake charity, Hope for Kids, to offshore accounts. She's claiming you approved it." My vision blurred. Hope for Kids was a charity I'd funded with 5 million, believing it was Lauren's passion project for underprivileged children. Now, it was a front for her theft. Another layer of deceit that made my skin crawl. Had every tear she'd shed at charity galas been an act? The betrayal was a living thing, clawing at my soul, leaving me questioning every moment I'd trusted her. The third shock was a sledgehammer. A news alert pinged. "Tech mogul Charles Bennett under investigation for tax evasion." The article, splashed across every major outlet, cited leaked documents, tying me to Lauren's fake charity. My name, my reputation, 45 years of integrity, trashed in a single headline. Lauren had orchestrated a public smear, painting me as a criminal to cover her tracks. I sank into my chair, the room spinning. Margaret's hand found mine, her touch a lifeline, but her eyes held a grief that mirrored my own. "She's destroying you," she whispered. "How could Nathan let this happen?" The question echoed my torment. My son, my pride, had become her accomplice, either by weakness or choice, and the pain was a physical ache, like my heart was breaking in slow motion. Tom burst in, his face grim. "Charles, Mike's got a lead on Jax. He's a known cybercriminal, and we're tracing his IP. We'll get her." His loyalty was a beacon, but it couldn't erase the agony. I turned to Carla, who stood quietly, her eyes fierce with protectiveness. "You don't deserve this, Mr. Bennett," she said, her voice steady. "I saw Lauren sneaking around the garage last month, but I thought she was planning a surprise." Her guilt was palpable, another victim of Lauren's web. Sarah's voice crackled through the speakerphone. "I'm flying in tomorrow to help Mike audit the charity. We'll expose her, Charles." Her resolve was a spark of hope, but it flickered against the darkness of betrayal. Lauren's video played in my mind, her taunt, "You'll never see them again," a relentless echo. Ellie and Max, my heart's joy, were now pawns in her game. I'd dreamed of their graduations, their weddings, funded by the empire I'd built. Now, Lauren had stolen that dream, 30 million more, and my good name. The self-doubt was paralyzing. Had my wealth corrupted her? Or had she always been this ruthless? I remembered her at Ellie's birthday, tying balloons, kissing my cheek, promising to make me proud. Was it all a lie? A long con to drain me dry? The grief was a tidal wave, drowning me in regret for every dollar I'd given, every trust I'd placed. Another text arrived. "Surrender, Bennett. Sign over your company, or the kids pay the price." Attached was a photo of Ellie's favorite teddy bear, torn in half. My breath caught, rage and despair colliding. Lauren's cruelty knew no bounds, and Nathan's absence in this fight was a final betrayal. I looked at Margaret, her face a mask of maternal anguish. "We have to save them," she said, her voice breaking. I nodded, resolve hardening. "Tom, call Mike. We're going after her legally, publicly, whatever it takes." The room buzzed with purpose, but inside, I was shattered. A father betrayed by the family he'd lived for. The battle was on, and I'd fight for my grandkids, my name, my life, no matter the cost. The Atherton night was heavy with the stench of betrayal. The torn teddy bear's image seared into my mind like a brand. Lauren's video, her taunts, and the threat against Ellie and Max had ripped open a wound I couldn't close. $30 million stolen from my company, my reputation smeared across headlines, and now my grandkids held hostage in her vicious game. This wasn't just a war, it was a slaughter of everything I'd lived for. Margaret's quiet sobs echoed from the living room, her strength fraying under the weight of our fractured family. Tom and Carla stood vigil, their loyalty a flicker of light in the darkness, but Nathan's absence was a gaping void. My son, once my pride, was lost to Lauren's poison, and the pain of his betrayal was a slow bleed I couldn't stop. I paced the study, the oak walls suffocating, each framed photo of happier times, Nathan's graduation, Ellie's first bike ride, a mockery of what we'd become. My heart pounded with a cocktail of rage and grief. Had I created this monster by giving Lauren too much? 10 million for their mansion, 5 million for her fake charity. Every dollar had been a thread in the noose she'd tied around my neck. The self-doubt was a relentless drumbeat. Had my wealth corrupted her? Or had she always been a predator? Her smile's a mask for this calculated cruelty. The memory of her at Max's christening, vowing to be a daughter I could trust, felt like a lie I'd swallowed whole, and the betrayal burned like acid in my veins. My phone buzzed, another gut punch from an unknown number. "You're a dead man walking, Bennett. Kiss your empire goodbye." Attached was a photo of my company's headquarters, a brick through the lobby window, graffiti spelling out thief in red spray paint. My breath caught, the audacity of Lauren's escalation, a slap to the face. She wasn't just after my money or my grandkids, she was torching my legacy, piece by piece. I called Tom, my voice shaking. They hit the office. "Graffiti, vandalism, she's coming for everything." Tom's voice was steel. "I'm calling Mike. We're locking this down, Charles. She won't win." And the first shock crashed like a tsunami. Carla burst in, her hands trembling, holding a letter slipped under the garage door. "Mr. Bennett, this was just delivered," she said, her loyalty unwavering despite the fear in her eyes. The envelope was unmarked, but the contents were a bombshell, a forged resignation letter, signed in my name, stepping down as chairman of my company, effective immediately. The letter was addressed to the board, with a press release ready to go, claiming I'd fled the country to escape tax evasion charges. My knees buckled. Lauren wasn't just stealing, she was erasing me, rewriting my life's work as a criminal's collapse. The betrayal was a knife, twisting deeper with every forged word. Before I could catch my breath, the second twist hit. Sarah called, her voice frantic. "Charles, I found a hidden account in Lauren's name, linked to Viper Ventures. She's been siphoning another 15 million from your pension fund, backdated to look like your orders." My vision darkened. My pension, the safety net for Margaret and me, built over 45 years of grinding, gone. Lauren had played me like a pawn, using my trust to drain every corner of my empire. The memory of her at our anniversary dinner, toasting my generosity, was a lie so vile it made my skin crawl. Had every tear she'd shed at charity galas been an act? The pain was a physical weight, crushing my chest, leaving me gasping for air. Are you enjoying the story so far? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Just drop a quick comment below to share how you feel. It only takes a few seconds, but your words give me the motivation and inspiration to make every chapter more thrilling and engaging. Go ahead, let me know what's on your mind. And now, let's dive back into the story. The third shock was a sledgehammer. A news van pulled into our driveway, cameras flashing as a reporter pounded on the door. "Mr. Bennett, is it true you're fleeing to Dubai to avoid prosecution?" My heart stopped. Lauren had leaked the fake resignation to the press, spinning a narrative that painted me as a fugitive. The reporter's voice was relentless, a vulture circling my ruin. Margaret clutched my arm, her face pale. "Charles, they're destroying you," she whispered, her voice breaking. The grief in her eyes mirrored my own, a shared agony for the family we'd lost, the grandkids we might never see again. I'd built this empire for them, only to watch Lauren dismantle it with a street hustler's ruthlessness. Tom shoved the reporter back, his voice a growl. "Get off this property." His loyalty was a lifeline, but it couldn't drown out the chaos. Carla, tears streaming, locked the door, her hands shaking. "I should have seen her for what she was," she said, her guilt a mirror to my own. Sarah's voice crackled through the speakerphone. "Charles, Mike's team traced Jax's IP to a warehouse in Oakland. We're closing in." Her resolve was a spark, but it flickered against the darkness of Lauren's betrayal. I turned to Margaret, her face a mask of maternal despair. "She's taken our grandkids, our home, our name," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "What's left?" Another text arrived. "Surrender Bennett. Sign over the company, or I sell your grandkids' location to the highest bidder." Attached was a video of Max's favorite toy truck, crushed under a boot. My stomach churned, rage and despair colliding like a storm. Lauren's cruelty was boundless, using Ellie and Max as pawns to break me. Nathan's absence was the final betrayal. My son, who I'd raised to be strong, was either too weak or too complicit to fight her. The memory of him teaching Ellie to ride a bike, laughing under the California sun, was a distant dream, shattered by his silence. I sank into my chair, the study's walls closing in. The pain was a living thing, clawing at my heart. Had I failed Nathan, giving him too much, shielding him from consequences? Had my love for Lauren blinded me to her greed? The self-doubt was a relentless tide pulling me under. I saw Ellie's smile, Max's clumsy hugs, and the thought of losing them to Lauren's malice was unbearable. But beneath the grief, a fire kindled. I'd built an empire from nothing. I could fight to save it. "Tom," I said, my voice steady despite the ache. "Get Mike here. We're taking her down every lie, every dollar, every threat." Margaret squeezed my hand, her eyes fierce with resolve. "For Ellie and Max," she said, her voice trembling but strong. Carla nodded, her loyalty unwavering. "I'll help, Mr. Bennett, whatever it takes." Sarah's voice rang through the phone. "We've got the evidence, Charles. Lauren's going to jail." The room buzzed with purpose, but inside I was a broken man, a father betrayed by the family he'd lived for. The news van's lights flashed outside, the world watching my fall, but I wasn't done. Lauren thought she'd won, but I'd fight for my grandkids, my legacy, my truth, no matter the cost. The Atherton dawn broke with a cruel clarity. The news van's lights long gone, but the sting of Lauren's betrayal still burning like a fresh wound. Her video of Ellie and Max, the crushed toy truck, and the threat to sell their location haunted me, a relentless assault on my soul. $30 million stolen from my company, $15 million from my pension. My reputation smeared as a tax evader. This was no longer a fight for money. It was a battle for my grandkids, my legacy, my very existence. Margaret's hand in mine was a fragile tether to hope, but Nathan's absence was a void that swallowed everything. Tom's resolve, Carla's loyalty, and Sarah's determination were my only anchors, but the weight of Lauren's malice threatened to drag me under. I stood in the kitchen, the marble island cold under my hands, staring at a photo of Ellie and Max taped to the fridge, a snapshot from a Santa Cruz boardwalk trip, their faces smeared with cotton candy. The memory was a knife, twisting with the fear that I might never see them again. Had I been too soft, too trusting, pouring millions into Lauren's hands, 10 million for their mansion, 5 million for her fake charity, only to fuel her greed. The self-doubt was a storm, raging inside me. Every moment I'd believed in her, her vows to honor our family, her tears at our generosity was now a lie, a calculated step toward this destruction. The betrayal was a living thing, gnawing at my heart, leaving me raw and exposed. My phone buzzed. Another blow from an unknown number. "Time's up, you pathetic old fuck. Sign over your shares, or your grandkids disappear for good." Attached was a grainy photo of Ellie's backpack, abandoned in an alley, her name stitched in bright pink. My breath stopped, the world tilting. Lauren wasn't just threatening, she was closing in, her cruelty a noose tightening around my family. I showed the message to Tom, my voice barely a whisper. "She's got them, Tom. She's got my grandkids." His face hardened, his FBI instincts kicking in. "We're raiding that Oakland warehouse tonight. Mike's got the feds on board. We'll find them." The first shock hit like an earthquake. The doorbell rang, sharp and insistent, and I opened it to find Rachel, my company's PR manager, her face pale. "Charles, someone leaked internal emails to the press," she said, handing me a tablet. The screen showed forged correspondence, supposedly from me, admitting to embezzling $50 million from my own company to fund personal ventures. My stomach churned. Lauren had escalated her smear, painting me as a traitor to my own board, my employees, my legacy. Rachel's eyes were fierce with loyalty. "I know this isn't you, Charles. I'm rallying the team to counter this." Her support was a lifeline, but the betrayal cut deeper. Lauren was dismantling my life's work, piece by forged piece. The second twist was a gut punch. Sarah burst through on a video call, her voice frantic. "Charles, I found a hidden account in Lauren's name, linked to Viper Ventures. She's been funneling money to a cartel contact, Diego, who's laundering it through a Miami nightclub. She's not just stealing, she's tied to organized crime." My vision blurred. Diego, a name I'd heard in passing when Lauren pitched a business deal last year, asking for $3 million I'd refused. Now, she was entangled with criminals, using my money to bankroll a cartel. The memory of her at our Christmas party, charming my board with promises of philanthropy, was a lie so vile it made my skin crawl. Had every smile been a step toward this underworld alliance? The pain was a physical weight, crushing my chest, leaving me gasping. The third shock was a sledgehammer. A black SUV screeched to a halt outside, and out stepped Vince, the oily lawyer, flanked by a new figure, Lila, Lauren's cousin, a tabloid journalist with a predatory grin. Well, Bennett, Lila sneered, her voice dripping with San Francisco street venom. Thought you could hide behind your fancy mansion? I'm publishing a tell. All tomorrow tech titans fall. Charles Bennett's criminal empire. You're done, you greedy bastard. She waved a USB drive, claiming it held witness statements from my former employees, all fabricated to frame me as a fraud. My heart pounded, the audacity of Lauren's network overwhelming. She'd weaponized my entire world, my grandkids, my company, my name, into a public execution. Margaret collapsed onto a chair, her face a mask of despair. Charles, she's taken everything, she whispered, her voice breaking. The grief in her eyes was a mirror to my own, a shared agony for the family we'd lost, the grandkids held hostage by Lauren's malice. I'd built this empire for them, only to watch it crumble under her ruthless assault. Nathan's absence was the deepest cut. My son, who I'd raised to stand tall, was either too weak or too complicit to fight her. The memory of him reading bedtime stories to Max, his voice soft and proud, was a distant echo, drowned by his betrayal. Tom grabbed his phone, dialing Mike. We need that raid now, he barked, his loyalty a beacon in the chaos. Rachel stepped forward, her voice firm. I'm drafting a press release to debunk the emails, Charles. We'll fight this. Carla, tears streaming, clutched the fridge photo of Ellie and Max. I'll pray for them, Mr. Bennett, she said, her voice trembling but resolute. Their support was a spark, but it flickered against the darkness of Lauren's war. I turned to Margaret, her hand trembling in mine. We'll save them, I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. No matter what it takes. Another text arrived. Last chance you washed up has been, hand over your company or the kids are gone forever. Attached was a video of Max's voice crying, Grandpa, where are you? My heart shattered, rage and despair colliding like a hurricane. Lauren's cruelty was a bottomless pit, and Nathan's silence was the final betrayal, a son lost to her poison. The pain was unbearable, a tidal wave of grief for the family I'd lived for, now torn apart by a woman I'd trusted. But beneath the agony, a resolve hardened. I'd built an empire from nothing. I could fight to reclaim it. Tom, get the feds to that warehouse, I said, my voice cold as steel. We're ending this tonight. The kitchen buzzed with purpose, but inside, I was a broken man, a father betrayed, fighting for the last pieces of his world. The Atherton kitchen was a fortress under siege. The echo of Max's cry, Grandpa, where are you? Ringing in my ears like a death knell. Lauren's latest blow, threatening to sell my grandkids' location, had shattered what little hope remained. $50 million framed as my embezzlement, $15 million stolen from my pension, my company's headquarters defaced. This was a calculated annihilation of my life's work. Margaret's trembling hand in mine was a lifeline, but her eyes held a despair that mirrored my own. Tom's call to Mike, rallying the feds for the Oakland warehouse raid, was a spark of action, but Nathan's absence was a void that consumed me. My son, my legacy, was lost to Lauren's venom, and the betrayal was a wound that bled without end. I stood by the window, staring at the smoldering remains of our lawn, the charred rose bushes, a grim metaphor for our family. The pain was visceral, a claw tearing at my heart. Had I been too generous, pouring millions into Lauren's hands, 10 million for their mansion, 5 million for her fake charity, only to forge the chains of my own destruction? The memory of her at our Thanksgiving table, raising a glass to family forever, was a lie so cruel it stole my breath. Had every moment of her loyalty been a performance, a step toward this betrayal? The self-doubt was a relentless storm, questioning every choice I'd made, every dollar I'd given, every trust I'd placed in a woman I'd called daughter. My phone buzzed. Another dagger from an unknown number. You're a ghost now, Bennett. Give up the board, or your grandkids are history. Attached was a photo of Ellie's favorite hair clip, snapped in half, discarded in a gutter. My knees buckled, the image a punch to my gut. Lauren's cruelty was a bottomless abyss, using my grandkids as pawns to break me. I showed the message to Tom, my voice a rasp. She's escalating, Tom. She's got Ellie and Max somewhere. His eyes blazed with fury. Mike's team is moving on the warehouse. We'll get them back, Charles. Stay strong. The first shock hit like a thunderclap. Carla rushed in, her face ashen, clutching a burner phone she'd found taped under the kitchen sink. Mr. Bennett, it was ringing when I found it, she said, her loyalty unshaken despite the fear in her voice. I answered, and Lauren's voice slithered through, dripping with Oakland street venom. "Well, well, you stubborn old prick," she sneered. "Thought you could outsmart me? I've got your board in my pocket bribed with your own money. They're voting you out tomorrow." My heart stopped. She'd used my stolen millions, 50 million, 15 million, to buy off my board, the very people I'd trusted to steward my company. The betrayal was a sledgehammer, shattering the empire I'd built over 45 years. Before I could respond, the second twist landed. Sarah's voice crackled through a rushed text. "Charles, Jack's hacked your home security system. He's got live feeds of your house, feeding them to Lauren." My blood ran cold. Our sanctuary, where Ellie and Max had played, where Margaret and I had built our life, was now a surveillance state in Lauren's hands. The memory of her helping decorate our Christmas tree, laughing as she hung ornaments with Ellie, was a lie so vile it made my skin crawl. Had she planted the cameras then, plotting this invasion from the start? The pain was a crushing weight, my chest tight with the realization that nowhere was safe. My family, my home, my life, all exposed by a woman I'd loved like my own. The third shock was a bomb. A loud crash echoed from the backyard, and I ran to the patio doors to see Ricky, Lauren's ex-con cousin, spray-painting traitor across our pool house. His laugh was a hyena's cackle, his voice pure street venom. "You're finished, you greedy old bastard. Lauren's got this town locked down." He hurled a brick through the glass door, shards exploding across the patio. Margaret screamed, clutching Carla, while Tom grabbed a baseball bat from the hall closet, his FBI instincts on fire. "Stay back!" he roared, charging outside. Ricky fled, but the damage was done, our home violated, our safety shattered. Lauren's network was a hydra, each head more vicious than the last. Margaret sank to the floor, her face a mask of anguish. "Charles, she's taken our grandkids, our home, our peace," she whispered, tears streaming. The grief in her eyes was a mirror to my own, a shared torment for the family we'd lost. The grandkids held hostage by Lauren's malice. Nathan's absence was the deepest cut, my son, who I'd taught to dream big, was either too weak or too complicit to fight her. The memory of him pushing Max on a swing, their laughter filling our backyard, was a ghost, drowned by his betrayal. The pain was a tidal wave, sweeping away the man I'd been, leaving only a father desperate to save his grandkids. Tom returned, his face grim. "Ricky's gone, but I've got Mike on the line. The feds are hitting the warehouse now." His loyalty was a beacon, but it couldn't erase the agony. Carla, tears in her eyes, clutched the fridge photo of Ellie and Max. "I'll keep searching, Mr. Bennett," she said, her voice trembling but resolute. Sarah's text pinged again. "Found Diego's nightclub. It's a front for Lauren's money. We're close." Her resolve was a spark, but it flickered against the darkness of Lauren's war. I turned to Margaret, her hand trembling in mine. "We'll save them," I said, my voice breaking, "no matter what it takes." Another text arrived. "You're a dead man, Bennett. Sign the board over, or I burn your world to ash." Attached was a live feed from our own security camera, showing Margaret and me in the kitchen, unaware we were being watched. My heart pounded, rage and despair colliding like a storm. Lauren's cruelty was relentless, and Nathan's silence was the final betrayal, a son lost to her poison. The pain was unbearable, a claw ripping through my soul. Had I failed him, shielding him from consequences? Had my love for Lauren blinded me to her true nature? The self-doubt was a relentless tide, but beneath it, a fire kindled. I'd built an empire from nothing. I could fight to reclaim it. "Tom, tell Mike to move now," I said, my voice cold as steel. "We're ending this tonight." Margaret squeezed my hand, her eyes fierce with resolve. "For Ellie and Max," she said, her voice trembling but strong. Carla nodded, her loyalty unwavering. "I'm with you, Mr. Bennett." The kitchen buzzed with purpose, but inside I was a broken man. A father betrayed by the family he'd lived for. The cameras watched, the world judged, but I wasn't done. Lauren thought she'd won, but I'd fight for my grandkids, my legacy, my truth, no matter the cost. The Atherton kitchen pulsed with a desperate resolve. The live feed of Margaret and me, captured by our own hacked security cameras, still flickering on my phone like a taunting ghost. Lauren's threat to sell Ellie and Max's location, her bribed boardroom coup, and the vandalism of our home had stripped away every layer of safety. $50 million framed as my embezzlement, $15 million stolen from my pension, and my company's legacy defaced. This was a calculated crucifixion of everything I'd built. Margaret's fierce grip on my hand anchored me, but her eyes were pools of grief, reflecting the loss of our grandkids to Lauren's malice. Tom's call to Mike, mobilizing the feds for the Oakland warehouse raid, was a flicker of hope, but Nathan's absence was a chasm that swallowed my heart. My son, my heir, was either too weak or too complicit, and the betrayal was a relentless ache, tearing at my soul. I stood by the window, staring at the smoldering remains of our lawn. The charred rose bushes, a grim metaphor for our family. The pain was a living beast, clawing at my chest. Had I been too indulgent, handing Lauren millions, 10 million for their mansion, 5 million for her fake charity only to arm her against me? The memory of her at our Labor Day barbecue, teaching Ellie to grill hot dogs, was a lie so cruel it stole my breath. Had every gesture of love been a step in her long con? The self-doubt was a hurricane, ripping through every moment I'd trusted her, every dollar I'd given, every hope I'd pinned on her as family. The betrayal was a wound that bled without end, leaving me a broken man, fighting for the scraps of my legacy. My phone buzzed. Another venomous strike from an unknown number. "You're a fucking corpse, Bennett. Cough up your patents, or your grandkids are gone for good." Attached was a photo of Max's drawing, a stick-figure family, labeled Grandpa, torn and smeared with dirt. My heart shattered, the image a blade through my soul. Lauren's cruelty was a black hole, sucking in everything I loved. I showed the message to Tom, my voice a broken whisper. "She's escalating, Tom. She's got Ellie and Max somewhere." His face was stone, his voice fierce. "Mike's team is breaching the warehouse now. We'll find Ellie and Max, Charles. Hold on." The first shock hit like a thunderclap. The front door burst open, revealing Jenna, my former executive assistant, her face pale with panic. "Charles, Lauren's got my daughter too," she gasped, clutching a crumpled note. It was a ransom demand, signed by Diego, the cartel contact, threatening Jenna's child unless she testified against me in court. My stomach churned. Lauren wasn't just targeting my family, she was dragging my loyal employees into her web, using their loved ones as leverage. Jenna's eyes were fierce with loyalty despite her fear. "I won't lie, Charles. I know you're innocent." Her support was a lifeline, but the betrayal cut deeper. Lauren had turned my workplace, my second family, into a battlefield. The second twist was a gut punch. Sarah's voice crackled through a hurried call. "Charles, I found a backdoor in your company's patent database. Jack sold your AI patents to a Chinese competitor for 20 million. Lauren orchestrated it." My vision darkened. My patents, the heart of my company's innovation, built over decades of sleepless nights, were now in enemy hands. The memory of Lauren touring my labs, praising my genius, was a lie so vile it made my skin crawl. Had she been scouting my work even then, planning to sell my legacy to the highest bidder? The pain was a crushing weight, my chest tight with the realization that my life's work was being dismantled piece by piece. The third shock was a detonation. A loud screech echoed from the street, and I ran to the window to see a tow truck hauling away Margaret's vintage Porsche, a gift for our 40th anniversary. Ricky stood beside it laughing, his voice pure Oakland street venom. "You're a broke-ass nobody now, Bennett. Lauren's stripping you bare." He spray-painted loser on the car's hood before speeding off. Margaret collapsed against me, her sobs shaking her frame. "That was ours, Charles," she whispered, her voice breaking. The Porsche wasn't just a car, it was a symbol of our shared struggle, our love, now defiled by Lauren's cruelty. Her network was a relentless machine, each attack more vicious than the last. Margaret's face was a mask of anguish, her eyes pleading for answers I didn't have. "She's taken our grandkids, our home, our memories," she said, tears streaming. The grief in her voice was a mirror to my own, a shared torment for the family we'd lost, the grandkids held hostage by Lauren's malice. Nathan's absence was the deepest cut. My son, who I'd taught to dream big, was either too weak or too complicit to fight her. The memory of him building sandcastles with Max, their laughter echoing on a Monterey beach, was a ghost, drowned by his betrayal. The pain was a tidal wave, sweeping away the man I'd been, leaving only a grandfather desperate to save his family. Tom grabbed his phone, his voice a growl. "Mike's got eyes on Diego. The feds are closing in." His loyalty was a beacon, but it couldn't erase the agony. Jenna stepped forward, her voice trembling but resolute. "I'm gathering employee statements to clear your name, Charles. We're with you." Carla, clutching the fridge photo of Ellie and Max, nodded fiercely. "I'll keep looking for clues, Mr. Bennett." Their support was a spark, but it flickered against the darkness of Lauren's war. Sarah's text pinged. "Diego's talking. He's naming Lauren as the mastermind." Her resolve was aflame, but it struggled against the storm of betrayal. Another text arrived. "You're nothing, Bennett. Hand over your patents, or I sell your grandkids to Diego's crew." Attached was a video of Ellie's voice, trembling. "Grandpa, I'm scared." My heart shattered, rage and despair colliding like a hurricane. Lauren's cruelty was a bottomless pit, and Nathan's silence was the final betrayal, a son lost to her poison. The pain was unbearable, a claw ripping through my soul. Had I failed him, shielding him from reality? Had my love for Lauren blinded me to her true nature? The self-doubt was a relentless tide, but beneath it, a fire kindled. I'd built an empire from nothing. I could fight to reclaim it. "Tom, tell Mike to hit Diego hard," I said, my voice cold as steel. "We're saving Ellie and Max tonight." Margaret squeezed my hand, her eyes fierce with resolve. "For our family," she said, her voice trembling but strong. Jenna nodded, her loyalty unwavering. "We'll stand by you, Charles." The kitchen buzzed with purpose, but inside, I was a broken man, a grandfather betrayed by the family he'd lived for. The world watched, the cameras spied, but I wasn't done. Lauren thought she'd won, but I'd fight for my grandkids, my legacy, my truth, no matter the cost. The Atherton morning was a hollow shell, the echo of Ellie's trembling voice. "Grandpa, I'm scared," cutting through me like a jagged blade. Lauren's relentless assault, $50 million framed as my embezzlement, 15 million stolen from my pension, my patents sold, my home violated, had left my empire in ruins. The threat to sell my grandkids to Diego's cartel was a guillotine over my heart, and Nathan's absence was a betrayal that bled me dry. Margaret's fierce resolve anchored me, while Tom, Carla, Jenna, and Sarah rallied like soldiers, but the pain of Lauren's malice was a storm that threatened to drown us all. The feds were raiding the Oakland warehouse, but every second felt like a lifetime, my grandkids' safety hanging by a thread. I stood in the study, the oak walls a prison, staring at a framed letter from Nathan's college days, thanking me for believing in him. The memory was a dagger, twisting with the realization that he'd abandoned me to Lauren's venom. Had I failed him, pouring millions, 10 million for their mansion, 5 million for her fake charity into a family that turned against me, the self-doubt was a riptide, pulling me under. Every moment I'd trusted Lauren, her hugs at family reunions, her promises to honor our legacy was a lie, a calculated step toward this annihilation. The betrayal was a living beast, tearing at my soul, leaving me a grandfather clinging to the hope of saving Ellie and Max. My phone buzzed, another venomous strike from an unknown number. "You're a fucking fossil, Bennett. Hand over your trust funds, or your grandkids are shark bait." Attached was a photo of Max's stuffed dinosaur, gutted with a knife, blood-red paint dripping from it. My heart shattered, the image a sledgehammer to my chest. Lauren's cruelty was a vortex, swallowing everything I loved. I showed the message to Tom, my voice a broken rasp. "She's not stopping, Tom. She's going to destroy them." His eyes burned with fury. Mike's team found a lead in the warehouse, a laptop with Lauren's emails. "We're close, Charles. Hang on." The first shock hit like a tsunami. The doorbell rang, and I opened it to find Ethan, my oldest board member, a man I'd trusted for 30 years, his face grim. "Charles, Lauren offered me 10 million to vote you out," he confessed, his voice heavy with guilt. I said no, but half the board took the bribe. My stomach churned. My board, my inner circle, had been corrupted by Lauren's stolen millions, turning my allies into traitors. Ethan's eyes were fierce with loyalty. "I'm rallying the holdouts to fight this, Charles. You're not alone." His support was a lifeline, but the betrayal cut deeper. Lauren had poisoned the very heart of my company, using my own wealth against me. The second twist was a gut punch. Sarah's voice burst through a frantic call. "Charles, Jack's leaked your personal emails to a dark web forum, claiming you're tied to Diego's cartel. They're demanding 40 million in crypto to keep it quiet." My vision blurred. My private correspondence, years of heartfelt messages to Nathan, Margaret, and my team, was now a weapon in Lauren's hands, twisted to frame me as a criminal. The memory of her at my retirement party, toasting my honesty, was a lie so vile it made my skin crawl. Had she hacked my emails even then, planning this extortion? The pain was a crushing weight, my chest tight with the realization that my private life was now a public spectacle. The third shock was a detonation. A loud explosion rocked the street, and I ran to the window to see my neighbor's Tesla engulfed in flames, Diego's cartel logo spray-painted on the sidewalk. Ricky stood across the road laughing, his voice pure Oakland street venom. "You're a dead man, Bennett. Lauren's burning this whole damn town." He tossed a Molotov cocktail at our mailbox, flames erupting as neighbors screamed. Margaret clutched me, her sobs shaking her frame. "Charles, they're monsters," she whispered, her voice breaking. The Tesla wasn't just a car. It was a symbol of our community, our safety, now defiled by Lauren's war. Her network was a relentless hydra, each attack more vicious than the last. Margaret's face was a mask of anguish, her eyes pleading for salvation. "She's taken our grandkids, our home, our trust," she said, tears streaming. The grief in her voice was a mirror to my own, a shared torment for the family we'd lost. The grandkids held hostage by Lauren's malice. Nathan's absence was the deepest cut. My son, who I'd taught to stand tall, was either too weak or too complicit to fight her. The memory of him coaching Ellie's soccer team, cheering her on, was a ghost, drowned by his betrayal. The pain was a tidal wave, sweeping away the man I'd been, leaving only a grandfather desperate to save his family. Tom grabbed his phone, his voice a roar. "Mike, the cartel's hitting the neighborhood. Move faster." His loyalty was a beacon, but it couldn't erase the agony. Ethan stepped forward, his voice resolute. "I'm calling an emergency board meeting, Charles. We'll block Lauren's vote." Carla, clutching the fridge photo of Ellie and Max, nodded fiercely. "I found a hidden camera in the guest room, Mr. Bennett. I'm giving it to the feds." Jenna's text pinged. "Diego's laptop has Lauren's orders to kidnap the kids. We've got her." Their support was a spark, but it flickered against the darkness of Lauren's war. Another text arrived. "You're a fucking nobody, Bennett. Sign the trust funds over, or I feed your grandkids to Diego's dogs." Attached was a video of Ellie's teddy bear, burning in a fire pit. My heart shattered, rage and despair colliding like a hurricane. Lauren's cruelty was a bottomless pit, and Nathan's silence was the final betrayal, a son lost to her poison. The pain was unbearable, a claw ripping through my soul. Had I failed him, giving him everything? Had my love for Lauren blinded me to her true nature? The self-doubt was a relentless tide, but beneath it, a fire kindled. I'd built an empire from nothing. I could fight to reclaim it. "Tom, tell Mike to hit the warehouse with everything," I said, my voice cold as steel. "We're saving Ellie and Max now." Margaret squeezed my hand, her eyes fierce with resolve. "For our family," she said, her voice trembling but strong. Ethan nodded, his loyalty unwavering. "We'll save your company, Charles." The study buzzed with purpose, but inside I was a broken man, a grandfather betrayed by the family he'd lived for. The flames outside roared, the world watched, but I wasn't done. Lauren thought she'd won, but I'd fight for my grandkids, my legacy, my truth, no matter the cost. The Atherton study was a war room. The burning teddy bear's image seared into my soul like a curse. Lauren's threats to feed Ellie and Max to Diego's cartel dogs, her bribed boardroom coup, and the violation of our home had left my empire in ashes. $50 million framed as my embezzlement, $15 million stolen from my pension, $20 million in patents sold to foreign hands. This was a systematic execution of my legacy. Margaret's fierce resolve was my only tether, but her eyes held a grief that mirrored my own, a shared agony for our grandkids trapped in Lauren's vicious grip. Tom, Carla, Jenna, Ethan, and Sarah stood with me. Their loyalty a faint light in the darkness, but Nathan's absence was a wound that bled without end. The feds were breaching the Oakland warehouse, but every moment felt like a countdown to catastrophe. I leaned against the desk, the framed letter from Nathan's college days, mocking me with its faded gratitude. The pain was a living beast, ripping through my chest. Had I been too blind, pouring millions, 10 million for their mansion, 5 million for her fake charity into a family that betrayed me? The memory of Lauren at our Easter brunch, helping Max hunt for eggs, was a lie so cruel it choked me. Had every laugh been a mask, every promise a step toward this annihilation? The self-doubt was a maelstrom, tearing at every choice I'd made, every trust I'd placed in a woman I'd called daughter. The betrayal was a relentless fire, burning away the grandfather I'd been, leaving only a man desperate to save his family. My phone buzzed, another venomous strike from an unknown number. "You're a fucking relic, Bennett. Sign over your estate, or your grandkids are dead meat." Attached was a photo of Ellie's favorite blanket, shredded and soaked in red paint, abandoned in a dumpster. My heart shattered, the image a sledgehammer to my soul. Lauren's cruelty was a black hole, devouring everything I loved. I showed the message to Tom, my voice a broken whisper. "She's got them, Tom. She's going to kill them." His face was granite, his voice fierce. "Mike's team found a hidden room in the warehouse. They're close, Charles. We'll save them." The first shock hit like a meteor. The doorbell rang, and I opened it to find Maria, our family lawyer, her face ashen. "Charles, Lauren filed a lawsuit claiming you abused her trust, demanding 60 million in damages." My stomach churned. A lawsuit, built on lies. using my own generosity, 10 million for their mansion, 5 million for her fake charity to paint me as a monster. Maria's eyes were fierce with loyalty. I'm countersuing Charles. She won't get a dime. Her support was a lifeline, but the betrayal cut deeper. Lauren had turned my acts of love into a legal weapon, dragging my name through the courts. The second twist was a gut punch. Sarah's voice crackled through a frantic text. Charles, Jack's hacked your medical records. He's leaking claims you're unfit to run the company, citing dementia. My vision darkened. My health, private and pristine, was now a tool in Lauren's hands, twisted to strip me of my leadership. The memory of her at my 65th birthday, gifting me a watch engraved with Forever Strong, was a lie so vile it made my skin crawl. Had she been planning this smear even then, mocking my vitality? The pain was a crushing weight, my chest tight with the realization that my very identity was under attack. The third shock was a detonation. A loud screech tore through the night, and I ran to the window to see a black van idling in our driveway, Diego himself stepping out, his cartel tattoos glinting under the streetlights. You're done, you washed-up old fuck, he roared, his voice pure Oakland Street venom. Lauren's got your whole world in my hands. He held up a tablet streaming live footage of Ellie and Max, tied up in a dingy room, their faces pale with fear. Margaret screamed, collapsing against me, her sobs shaking her frame. Charles, they're alive, but they're terrified, she whispered, her voice breaking. The sight of my grandkids, helpless in Diego's grip, was a dagger through my heart, a symbol of Lauren's relentless war. Margaret's face was a mask of anguish, her eyes pleading for salvation. She's taken our grandkids, our home, our dignity, she said, tears streaming. The grief in her voice was a mirror to my own, a shared torment for the family we'd lost. The grandkids trapped in Lauren's malice. Nathan's absence was the deepest cut. My son, who I'd taught to fight for what's right, was either too weak or too complicit to stand against her. The memory of him carrying Ellie on his shoulders at a 4th of July parade, their laughter ringing out, was a ghost, drowned by his betrayal. The pain was a tidal wave, sweeping away the man I'd been, leaving only a grandfather, desperate to save his family. Tom grabbed his phone, his voice a roar. Mike, Diego's here. Get the feds to our house now. His loyalty was a beacon, but it couldn't erase the agony. Maria stepped forward, her voice resolute. I'm filing an injunction to freeze Lauren's accounts, Charles. She's done. Carla, clutching the fridge photo of Ellie and Max, nodded fiercely. I found a hidden tracker in the garage, Mr. Bennett. It's going to the feds. Jenna's text pinged. Diego's tablet has Lauren's orders to kidnap the kids. We've got proof. Their support was a spark, but it flickered against the darkness of Lauren's war. Another text arrived. You're a fucking dead man, Bennett. Sign the estate over, or I carve up your grandkids myself. Attached was a video of Diego holding a knife near Ellie's face, her eyes wide with terror. My heart shattered, rage and despair colliding like a hurricane. Lauren's cruelty was a bottomless pit, and Nathan's silence was the final betrayal, a son lost to her poison. The pain was unbearable, a claw ripping through my soul. Had I failed him, giving him too much? Had my love for Lauren blinded me to her true nature? The self-doubt was a relentless tide. But beneath it, a fire kindled. I'd built an empire from nothing. I could fight to reclaim it. Tom, tell Mike to hit Diego now, I said, my voice cold as steel. We're saving Ellie and Max tonight. Margaret squeezed my hand, her eyes fierce with resolve. For our family, she said, her voice trembling but strong. Maria nodded, her loyalty unwavering. We'll bury her in court, Charles. The study buzzed with purpose, but inside I was a broken man, a grandfather betrayed by the family he'd lived for. Diego's van idled outside, the world watched, but I wasn't done. Lauren thought she'd won, but I'd fight for my grandkids, my legacy, my truth, no matter the cost. The Atherton study was a battlefield, the burning teddy bear's image seared into my soul like a curse. Lauren's threats to feed Ellie and Max to Diego's cartel dogs, her $60 million lawsuit, and the sabotage of my company's patents had obliterated my empire. My home, my reputation, my family, all reduced to rubble by a woman I'd loved like a daughter. Margaret's fierce grip was my only anchor, her eyes a mirror of my anguish for Ellie and Max, trapped in Lauren's vicious web. Tom, Carla, Jenna, Ethan, and Sarah stood with me, their loyalty a faint pulse in the chaos, but Nathan's silence was a betrayal that bled me dry. The feds were storming the Oakland warehouse, but time was a noose tightening around my grandkids' lives. I stood by the window, the dawn light mocking the smoldering ruins of our lawn. The pain was a ravenous beast, gnawing at my soul. Had I been too trusting, pouring millions, 10 million for their mansion, 5 million for her fake charity into a family that turned on me? The memory of Lauren at our New Year's Eve gala, dancing with Ellie under twinkling lights, was a lie so cruel it stole my breath. Had every smile been a mask, every vow a step toward this destruction? The self-doubt was a relentless vortex, questioning every dollar I'd given, every trust I'd placed. The betrayal was a fire, burning away the grandfather I'd been, leaving only a man desperate to save his family. My phone buzzed. Another venomous strike from an unknown number. "You're a fucking has-been, Bennett. Surrender your legacy, or your grandkids are dog food." Attached was a photo of Max's sneakers, slashed and soaked in red paint, discarded in a sewer. My heart shattered, the image, a sledgehammer to my chest. Lauren's cruelty was a black hole, devouring everything I loved. I showed the message to Tom, my voice a broken rasp. "She's killing them, Tom." His eyes blazed with fury. Mike's team found Ellie and Max in the warehouse. "They're alive, Charles. We're moving in now." The first shock hit like a tidal wave. The doorbell rang, and I opened it to find Nathan, his face pale, eyes hollow with guilt. "Dad, I didn't know she'd go this far," he stammered, clutching a USB drive. "This has Lauren's plans, everything." My stomach churned. My son, who I'd raised to stand tall, was finally breaking free. But the betrayal of his silence stung deeper than ever. "You let her destroy us," I said, my voice cracking. Nathan's eyes filled with tears. "I'm here now, Dad. I'll testify against her." His return was a lifeline, but the pain of his complicity, years of enabling Lauren's greed, was a wound that wouldn't heal. The knowledge of his betrayal cut deep, but the knowledge of his redemption offered a flicker of hope. The second twist was a gut punch. Sarah's voice burst through a frantic call. "Charles, Jax planted a virus in your company's servers, wiping out your financial records. Lauren's claiming you destroyed evidence to dodge taxes." My vision darkened. My records, decades of meticulous accounting, were gone, twisted to frame me as a criminal. The memory of Lauren, at my company's IPO, cheering my vision, was a lie so vile it made my skin crawl. Had she planned this sabotage from the start? The pain was a crushing weight, my chest tight with the knowledge that my life's work was erased. The betrayal was a lesson in trust, a brutal education in the cost of blind generosity. The third shock was a detonation. A loud crash echoed from the front gate, and I ran to the security monitor to see Diego's van rammed through, Lila at the wheel, her tabloid grin feral. "You're done." "You washed up old fuck," she screamed, her voice pure San Francisco street venom. "Lauren's got your whole empire in her pocket." She held up a tablet streaming a fake confession video, my face deepfake to admit to cartel ties. Margaret gasped, her sobs shaking her frame. "Charles, they're rewriting your life," she whispered, her voice breaking. The video wasn't just a lie, it was a desecration of my identity, a final nail in the coffin of Lauren's war. Margaret's face was a mask of anguish, her eyes pleading for salvation. "She's taken our grandkids, our home, our truth," she said, tears streaming. The grief in her voice was a mirror to my own, a shared torment for the family we'd lost. Nathan's return was a spark, but his earlier silence was a betrayal that lingered. The memory of him teaching Max to fish, their laughter echoing on a pier, was a ghost, drowned by his complicity. The pain was a tidal wave, sweeping away the man I'd been, leaving only a grandfather desperate to save his family. The knowledge of Lauren's cruelty was a lesson in vigilance, an education in the fragility of trust. Tom grabbed his phone, his voice a roar. "Mike, Diego's at the house. Get the feds here now." His loyalty was a beacon, but it couldn't erase the agony. Nathan stepped forward, his voice trembling but resolute. "I'll face her in court, Dad. I'm done being her pawn." Carla clutched the fridge photo of Ellie and Max, her eyes fierce. "I found a burner phone in the attic, Mr. Bennett. It's got Lauren's calls to Diego." Jenna's text pinged. "Feds rescued Ellie and Max. They're safe." My heart soared, but the relief was bittersweet, the knowledge of their trauma a heavy burden. The lesson of this ordeal was clear. Family could betray, but love could endure. Another text arrived. "You're a fucking nobody, Bennett. Your empire's dust." Attached was a live feed of my company's stock plummeting, Lauren's doing. But the feds had my grandkids, and Nathan was back. I turned to Margaret, her eyes fierce with hope. "They're safe," I said, my voice breaking. "We're rebuilding." The study buzzed with purpose, But inside, I was a broken man, a grandfather betrayed by the family he'd lived for. The knowledge of Lauren's downfall was coming, an education in justice. I'd fight for my legacy, my truth, my family, no matter the cost. This story is a lesson in the fragility of trust, an education in the strength of resilience. It teaches us that family can wound deeper than any enemy. But love true, steadfast love can heal. The knowledge gained from betrayal is a harsh education, but it forges a stronger heart. To my audience at RevengeX, what does this story stir in you? How does it reflect the betrayals or triumphs in your own life? Please like, subscribe, and share our YouTube channel, RevengeX, for more gripping tales every day. Drop a comment to share your thoughts. We want to hear the lessons and emotions this story sparks in your heart. Wishing you all strength, health, and joy. May your lives be filled with health, peace, and happiness every day. Stay strong, stay healthy, and we'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.